Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, David Rubin, Land Collective.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Happy New Year, everybody. I'm really pleased to be back in the city and to bring with me an extraordinary group of people who have been collaborating on the development of Grand Junction Plaza. I'm most happy to say, I think it was Matt Skelton, actually, one of the citizens here, who, when he saw me earlier today, said, "Welcome back home." And that was absolutely correct. This has been an extraordinary collaboration over the last couple of years, where the city of Westfield and its citizenry have really embraced this idea of creating an extraordinary urban plaza, urban park, as their central park, as the place around which all the citizens can gather. And so it's really been a joy to enter into an extraordinary engagement of design process and to search out collaborators who would share that vision and make something extraordinary for all of you. And so I just wanted to start to talk in general terms. As was inferred, the first slide always starts with an apple, because I believe in gravity. It's a universal truth, right? We are all bound to this earth through gravity, and as a result, that connective tissue on which we all land is our opportunity to engage with each other. It's the common ground for all of us. So when you think about how landscape architecture can unify people, it is the notion that you create places that are designed to engage the full spectrum of our society, everyone, because it's that action of dialogue that takes place in the context of good design that starts conversations that wouldn't normally happen. And as a result of those conversations, ideas are formed, and say that idea 10 years down the road saves the world. We're not capable of coming up with the idea that saves the world, but we can design places in which those conversations can take place. And that's the aspiration. It's our mission statement at Land Collective to create places for everyone, where dialogues can take place, where ideas are formed, some that might actually save the world. So it goes down to that spark of energy, that spark of light that we all have within us that connects us, right? It's that, in my Quaker heritage, it was, the light that's in here is the thing that unifies all of us together. And so even though I grew up to be a secular humanist, it's this type of thing that I carry with me all these days, because I recognize that it's humanity that is the saving grace of this world. If we can all get together and discuss ideas, then we will not be foreign to one another. And when you look at this world, more conversation has to take place, because we need to get to know each other better. That's what landscape architecture is all about. And so it's the notion that there are all these different lights that can come together and as a result create something beautiful. So I want to take us back to April 10th. And for those of you that can't see this slide, April 10th was the day that the levee broke and a rush of water came into town, right? And so we had an opportunity, actually, to deal with a challenging issue of stormwater and create something that is socially purposeful. That's the beauty of design in the face of infrastructure. Our idea would be that out of this aspect of infrastructure that was a necessity, we could create a place in which very different sorts of people might come together. And that would become Grand Junction Plaza. So the challenge is, back in the late 1800s, Indiana adopted one of the land acts that said, we're going to channelize every rivulet to get the water off the farmland. And so very quickly, a significant portion of Indiana ended up in the Gulf of Mexico. And if you go to Ohio, which is just to our right, they didn't have that. They didn't adopt that act. And so all the streams are these wonderful meandering corridors. And then when it hits Indiana, they all become these channels, these runnels, these things that shoot water out and get it off the land as quickly as possible. It's time to fix that, because that challenge that we had on April 10th is actually a result of that type of decision-making process. So the idea should be to deal with the floodplain and the challenges of that floodplain. On the left, you can see how much of the downtown is within that floodplain. And through the act of design, manipulate the land in such a way that we allow it to embrace stormwater, allow it to embrace a redefined creek, so that we can actually engage in that land in dialogue. And to do that, we have to redefine the unstable creek, and to pull it apart, and to allow it to become resilient once again. And so by pulling it apart, making it broad, allowing it to adapt to the influx of water periodically, we allow it to be more resilient. It doesn't shoot the water out as quickly as possible. But in doing that, we also give the citizens of Westfield the opportunity to actually engage in the water, something that in the history books Westfield used to be known for, the quality and character of the rivulets that used to run through town. So part of what we're trying to do is bring back that historic aspect of Westfield, but in a contemporary notion. So working with the floodplains, all the limitations of it, all the challenges defined by all these different lines, we're trying to figure out what we can build upon, what we can manipulate, and how we actually restore the creek to become this amenity. And when we finished schematic design, this was what we had come up with. This notion that in the space, with the introduction of a new road, an extended road, this would be Mill Street, right here. Mill Street, coming off of Main up here, would act as a levee, at the base of which was a large stormwater infrastructure project and a weir. And that weir would allow for water to pass through a reconstructed channel, a reconstructed stream bed that would be resilient, that would allow it to ebb and flow with storms. It would dry out. It would become this beautiful creek. Sometimes it would be ephemeral. Sometimes it would be this beautiful babbling brook. But to use that piece of infrastructure to redefine the space between Mill Street, Jersey, and Union, that became Grand Junction Plaza. And when we were asked to put together a team, and I have to say, I think part of the joyful process of the interview, the one that Todd referred to, where we were the last people to come in and talk about the prospect of collaborating with the city of Westfield and its citizens, was that we talked about this park relative to the people that would inhabit it. It was actually about all of you, not about us, and not about horticulture or, structures or other things. It was actually about how to get people to engage with each other. And so we went around and gathered up a whole bunch of folks to collaborate with us. And so I want to just acknowledge HWKN. Would you guys raise your hands? That Matthias Holwich is here. You'll hear from him. No. His team is back here. And we're working with Tillet Lighting, who are not here this evening, but Bruce Mao Design is. And so Christian and Tom are right there. And we're working with Stantec, who are designing for us the fountains and the ice rink. And ETM Associates, who are a really interesting group of collaborators because they figure out how to make our work affordable to you in the future, because what we don't want to leave you with is something you can't afford. So their whole job is to keep us in check by saying, this is what it's going to cost if you do this, this is what it's going to cost if you do this. And I don't mean the physical design of the project, I mean the things that are within it. So how much does it cost to run an ice rink? How much does it cost to run a cafe? What are the things that will allow this thing to be resilient in itself and actually add economy, good economy to the city? Flatland Resources has been working with us. Lynch Associates is irrigation. Wilson Consulting writes our specifications. We have our code consultants, RTM. UAP are our facade fabrication folks. Where's UAP? Oh, they left. Sorry, they're on their plane already. Theater Projects is helping us create an extraordinary venue that may even bring the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra to this space. VS Engineering, right there, yeah. KJWW Engineering, I'm not sure whether they're here this evening, but FRP Structural Engineers and LED, are they still around? Nope, okay. And we have Ratio, who's just joined our team, a local building architect and landscape architecture firm from Indianapolis, and Ron is right there, very good. So the thing that's key about this diagram though, it's a circle and it's an embrace of people thinking strategically together. And you're a part of that, and your city officials are a part of that, and the Grand Junction Task Group are a part of that as your representatives. And it's been an extraordinary collaboration. So I'm going to start talking about the landscape elements associated with the project. Then I'm going to invite Matthias Holwich to come up and talk about the architectural components. And then Christian and Tom will come from Bruce Mau Design to talk about the branding and identity and signage associated with the project. So let's begin with the broad picture for a second. Here's Grand Park, your great economic generator. That's something that makes this city so unique, right? And the idea is that here is Grand Junction Plaza in what we would consider the new downtown core, the aspiration for the downtown core. This is the park that's for you and your friends. So even though visitors might come, they're going to be your buddies coming to see what you've got right downtown, because it's going to be extraordinary. And it's the notion that there's a confluence of trails that come in that make the Grand Junction, right? The idea that all of these things are coming to that central focus. And it's about this sort of energy, right? The dynamics of diodes and energy and, you know, hearts beating and the stuff that actually bring people together in the construct of this landscape and this architecture where people are become the center focus and are the charge of that energy. And so this is the plan as it exists at the end of 100% design development, where we are right now. Design has multiple stages. There's the conceptual stage where you think about the big ideas. Then there's the schematic design where you figure, okay, how do I make that big idea work? And then if you agree that that's the thing that you want to make work, then you go into design development, which is figuring out how it all comes together as a system, because landscape is a system. Both living systems and static systems come together. And you draw these big sections, you figure out how the things come apart. And then the next phase becomes construction documentation, where you break it all apart again into these little diagrams that tell contractors how to build what you want to build. It's the language of design and construction. So we're almost at the end, which we're really excited about. So this is the park without the trees. I've just taken off the trees so you could get a sense of the elements. Here's Jersey Street up here. Main Street is up above. This is Union Street. And this is the new realigned Mill Street, which serves as a levee of sorts and a weir. And this down here in the southern portion is the new stormwater management area. And we are redefining the creek and restabilizing it. And what you're looking at are, in these V's and J hooks, are actually the large stones, large boulders, that are going to be used to allow for turbulence, because as we pull the land apart, we want the water to slowly pass through, and turbulence allows it to slow, right? As opposed to becoming this rushing torrent. When you pull it apart and you make it flat, and you use the J hooks to actually stabilize the land, and you get, in the end, a babbling brook back again. And so that gives us an opportunity to then use the adjacent land that fits within this zone to become programmed. And what we've done is designed what we call Jersey Plaza here, which includes a cafe, which Matthias will talk about. And in the wintertime, what you can see here is the ghost of an ice rink, an outdoor ice rink with the infrastructure built in to the ground, so that you just pour the posts, put the posts in the wintertime, pour the water, and freeze it. And it becomes this circular ice rink and skating area. And you'll get your skates here. You'll rent them here and go out and skate. And this is called the Great Lawn. And the Great Lawn is slightly sloping. It has a 5% slope. It shifts about 7 feet from high to low. 7 feet from high to low, to the stage pavilion, which is here. So this is the Grand Lawn, the great event space, where you'll come and listen to the orchestra, you'll come and watch movies, you might even see a play take place, and a couple of thousand people can engage in this space at any one time. Its complement is over here, the meadow, the lawn that sits within the meadow, by the Trailhead Pavilion. And the Trailhead Pavilion is where Westfield's information booth will be, and where you'll have an opportunity to lock your bikes when you've been on the trail and come in and enjoy the park. And over here, we have a restaurant and a pavilion overlook that engages in the space, and the Wetland amphitheater. And we'll talk about all of this as it relates to the stream corridor as we move forward. So that gives you a sense of the spaces that we've created. And I want to just take you repeatedly through different views of the park itself. So now we're hovering above Main Street right now, looking over to Jersey. So we're looking from north to south. This is the newly aligned Mill Street. This is where the stormwater catchment will be. This is the creek running to the north. This is Union Street. And so you see here Jersey Plaza in the summertime, and the Cafe Pavilion with outdoor seating. You see the back side of the Great Lawn, the upper side of the Great Lawn, with wood seating along its edge so that people can engage in the plaza here. The Great Lawn then tilts down towards the stage structure here with its green room and its loading and offloading zone here. And then there are two bridges that cross the creek to allow you to get to the Trailhead Pavilion on the southeast corner, and the Meadow Lawn, the Wetland Amphitheater, and the Restaurant Pavilion and Overlook. We're now looking at it from the opposite end, so we've gone from north to south. So this is Union Street on the right. This is Mill Street. Main Street is up here. This is Jersey. And this is the stormwater abatement area with the weir that then allows the water to slowly cascade through the site. And you just get a sense of the same pavilion structures, the Trailhead, the restaurant, the cafe, and the stage pavilion, the Great Lawn, and the Meadow Lawn here. What we're showing you are just a couple of key views of those spaces, which we'll go into greater depth. We're going to talk about Jersey Street and the plaza, the Great Lawn and stage, the Riparian corridor and crossings. We'll talk about the Meadow and Trailhead, the Wetland Amphitheater, and what we call the confluence, the point at which two creeks come together. So let's start with Jersey Street and the plaza. This is the image that we used at the end of 100% schematic design. So this is where we were before we started the last phase, which was design development. And the idea is that there's going to be this extraordinary cafe where you, in the wintertime, you'll get hot chocolate and cookies and things like that, and you'll rent your skates, and you'll come out and you'll participate in the skating loop that goes around the plaza. And it will be a joyful place where both wintertime programming and summertime programming can take place. In its current state, I've had, oh, sorry about that. There we go. This is the current design. I want to say that we didn't spend a lot of our effort redoing all the renderings again, so these are slightly coarser renderings. The design has gotten more finite, but we wanted to get these done quickly so we could talk with you about them. So this is the Cafe Pavilion in its current location with flexible seating. Parking along Jersey, but the roadway itself is flush. There's a flush curb. So this paving system actually extends into the plaza. The separation occurs through bollards and trees, and that affords us the opportunity to close down the street and make a large venue whenever we want to. You can just make out the ghost of the skating loop that would happen in winter, but for all intents and purposes during the summer you'll never see that piece as a piece of infrastructure. It exists underground, and it's just defined by cast concrete versus precast concrete pavers, which are adjacent, but they'll all be colored the same. And there's this little island of seating that becomes this very special place both in summer and in wintertime, because when the ice rink surrounds this, this becomes the warming hut area. Here's the edge of the Great Lawn. We have a skim and jet fountain here, and an opportunity for a cascading fountain that comes off of the Cafe Pavilion, which we'll talk about in a second. This is just a view from Mill Street and Jersey, so the intersection of Mill Street and Jersey, looking towards the southeast. There's the Cafe Pavilion in the distance. There's that little zone that I said is that special place within the plaza that you can go and gather. This is it's above it is all these string lights that focus on that space. So even in the evening time, people will be gathered under the dappled light of these catenary of the catenary system. This is just moving further in. We're on the edge of the Great Lawn, so we're slightly elevated. This is the Great Lawn Terrace here. It's a place where movable seating, you can arrange them as you like. In the wintertime, this will act as a fire pit where people can warm themselves. You can see the cafe here, just in the distance, and the skim fountain with its jets happening within the grove of trees. And now we've stepped out towards Jersey, so I'm standing in Jersey Street right now, looking back towards the cafe here. There's just the edge of the indication of the skating loop that happens in wintertime, and the elevated seating condition that I just described a moment ago. And now we're slightly suspended above the cafe, and this is the fountain, the Cascade Fountain, that comes off of the edge of the cafe and inscribes itself as a pool of water just along its edge. And this is designed to actually ebb and flow, to actually act as if it was engorged with water and then flush and then recede and trickle. And so we'll go through these animations so that it will cascade periodically. Sometimes it will trickle down, sometimes it will be a rush, but it will be always this attraction that's ever changing through the summer. We've designed the plaza to be adaptable to all sorts of programming. Every other day it's acting just as it should as a plaza, but some days it will have a market. And so we're demonstrating here how, say, a farmer's market or a craft fair with 10 by 10 tents might arrange itself in the plaza. Here we have special food trucks coming on occasion, lining up along Jersey with the queues right outside the cafe. This is Derby Day, where after the event or before the event, everybody's showing off their cars, right? It's where everybody will gather. And sometimes there's the mayor's ball in the middle of the summer, so we've designed it so that we can pitch a really big tent in the middle of the plaza to have that event. But at the same time, in winter, you get the skating loop. Here's where folks will go round and round, and here's where they'll do the pirouettes. This little structure ends up being where the Zamboni is housed, and here's where you're gonna, when you're completely exhausted, you're gonna peel yourself off, go through the little gate system here, and sit in the warming area in the middle of the plantings. So we're gonna just talk about the Great Lawn and Stage for a second. Sorry. This is where we stopped at the end of schematic design, and this is where we are now. I have to say, it's been an extraordinary transition between schematic design and now. We were challenged by the city of Westfield and Melody Jones, who is the director of Parks and Recreation. She really had the aspiration of having the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra come for the summer, to have their summer venue here, which is an extraordinary feat to try to figure out how to get them into a small park. I have to say, with significant kudos to HWKN and their collaborators, I think we've done an extraordinary job of figuring out how to get a full-on orchestra into this park so that you all can listen to music in the middle of summer. It's going to be a great venue. This is the stage pavilion, uniquely designed and absolutely emblematic of the creativity of this process, with the canopy that will overreach all the performers. This little structure is meant to disappear. It's actually going to be the green room and some of the public restrooms that will be affiliated with this, but it's strategically placed at the end of Park Street, and on both sides of the long walls they will be green walls, vine covered, and so that they'll kind of disappear. The idea is that we want the stage and the other pavilions to stand out. This structure will disappear in the vocabulary of the park, but beautifully aligned with Park Street, because we're going to have signage on the back side of it that will say, at the end of Park Street, you should have a park. Grand Junction Park Plaza. So, we're standing at the high end of the lawn, looking down towards the stage, complete with acoustic equipment and lighting to focus on the events that are taking place. And we've worked very strategically to ensure that sound quality becomes a significant part of the experience here. There's no point in going to see and hear an orchestra if they don't sound good. So we're working really hard to ensure that everyone hears well. Those that will be performing on stage will look out at you on the Great Lawn under the canopy. And we're just going to talk about the Riparian corridor and crossings for a second. So this is where we left, as I said, at the end of 100% schematics. And this is where we are now. So again, this is Jersey Street here. This is Union. And the realigned Mill Street is right here. And this is the redefined and realigned stream corridor that passes under the bridge and allows this stability and people to engage in the water. So this is the stage pavilion right here, the southern bridge, the Wetland amphitheater, the northern bridge, and the restaurant pavilion. We're just taking a look now from the cafe. We're looking across the northern bridge to the restaurant pavilion in the site. And now we're standing on the southern bridge looking north. So just to help you understand, these little J-hooks, they're hard to model realistically at this level. So they are actually not going to be seen by you. They're actually going to be pieces of stone. They've been modeled simply here to give you the concept of this. But the idea is that we're pulling apart the land, and then we're setting in the J-hooks, and the water fills up on the back side of them, and it passes over, and turbulence occurs. The water slows, and then it pools. The trickle happens. It turns again. So stability is what this is all about. In the end, you really won't see these. They'll just be expressions of the surface of the stone. We're standing on the boardwalk that runs along the wetland and underneath the northern bridge. So it passes down underneath it. On the right side, you can see the handicap accessible slope that it brings people down to this space. The Meadow and Trailhead pavilion, this is where we stopped at the end of schematics, and this is where we are for that area of the park now that we've gotten through 100% design development. Here is that pavilion. It sits slightly elevated from the rest of its surroundings. Again, stylistically, just to help us render quickly, because we wanted to get this to you, this is actually meadow grasses. They look like they're sliced volumes, right? But they're actually just meant to be flowing grasses. And the idea is that we're going to mow strategically through them to create this lawn that will be in this ellipse form. So these are taller grasses and then lawn. And this sort of creates this wonderful, secure, warm-feeling play area for unprogrammed activities. It will be surrounded by built-in benches here where parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and friends can actually watch people engage in social activities. We also have bike parking associated with strategically throughout this area of the park. So now we're standing on Mill Street, where it intersects Union. And this is the Trailhead Pavilion, where the information booth will be, and where you'll learn about Westfield and what's all the great things about it. This is that slight elevated terrace here, and some of the bicycle parking, what we call bike corrals. And now we're looking from the opposite angle. This is Union Street, looking back towards Mill. There's the pavilion again, and the sort of mown paths that get you into the central lawn space with some of the bicycle parking around it. And this is a view of the lawn itself and how people, we have this concept of distributing Adirondack chairs throughout. So it becomes this really great place to sort of hang out and read your Sunday paper and to have, you know, kids hang out and play. And if you're on the terrace just at the Trailhead Pavilion, you're just slightly elevated to be above all the activities that are taking place here. The Wetland Amphitheater. Sorry, my computer's going a little bit slowly. This is where we stopped at 100% schematic design. And one of the things that we wanted to address, you know, this idea that this sort of meandering stream will come through here and that people can get down to it, and that there can be a point of people gathering and perhaps participating. But this concept for us was too rigid in the context of a fluid condition. So we ended up thinking about wood as if it had been eroded by water. And in the context of all these other rigid elements that make up the park, a material like wood would be described in fluid form. And it made me recall an experience I had when I was in Italy one time in the Laurentian Library. And if you've ever had a chance to go there, it was designed by Michelangelo. And there are these beautiful stairs that descend from the library. And he had the mastery of defining the top stairs as these rigid forms. And as they slowly descended, they became more fluid. It was as if the stone became liquid. And by the time it reached the bottom of the stairs, it was just giving way under this sort of sensation of liquidity. And so we had this idea that the amphitheater could be, at the back would be this sort of rigid bar structure that you could sit and watch whatever was happening on the stage, whether it was your best friend's wedding or, you know, some performance by a quartet taking place. But as the wood, which cascades down to the seating, it becomes more and more curved. as it steps down. So this is a right angle, and then it becomes slightly more curved and slightly more curved, until finally it just sort of pours down into the creek area. And the stage itself looks as if it was formed by water passing over it time and time. This is the ADA accessible slope that comes down to allow everyone to participate in the boardwalk. And you can imagine every once in a while there'll be a quartet here playing where people can actually gather and listen, or some small performance taking place. This is a view from the boardwalk looking back towards the wood seating as it sort of flows down to the creek area. And here you are standing on the stage looking back towards the audience. The confluence, which is a little bit further north, is where the restaurant pavilion is. And again, the description of the meandering stream that will be set within a floriferous wetland area. Again, the idea at the end of schematics was that it was this great place to gather, to watch two streams come together and to become one. But we then began to change it as we'd had a little bit further south to make it even more liquid, so it would become joyful in the context of how one experiences wood and how one sits and relaxes. So the space itself, it starts at angles, then it becomes really, really fluid. And the idea is that you can lay back in the context of this wood as if it was a chaise lounge in the sun, and you're gathering with friends, and the restaurant is serving, and you're having a couple of drinks and enjoying the day. So it's this great, fantastic construct that sort of flows down from the area of the restaurant. Now I'm going to take a break and invite Matthias Holwich from HWKN to talk about the pavilions in the park.
So it's fantastic to be back here, and from all the two hands which came up, I realized that we all have seen each other, which is awesome, because the one really beautiful thing about working in architecture and working with you is that we already have a history in collaborating. Maybe you recall, and some of you were here, a couple of months ago, we all had actually multiple concepts that we presented to you. And you gave us advice, ideas, and suggestions, and many, many green dots, if you remember, gluing it onto the one, which is here with the arrow, indicating really the one that you like the most, and initiating with that for us the next stage in the design process to really figure out now how we can actually create the architecture that reflects really your wants and desires. You may also recall that this is actually how that particular concept really emerged. And when you looked at the visuals that you just had seen, you may have wondered about some of these forms again, how they were done. So this is actually the story to remind you how it really came to this. We were so fascinated by flying into Indiana and seeing actually that kind of grid of the streets, which is very dominant. And we were interested in actually using that perfect square, the perfect grid, as the initiation of the architecture. And now we're breaking it actually into 4 different pieces, and we're distributing it through the site so that we have 4 individual elements that when they come together, they're one. And it really talks about this kind of idea of unity and individuality, which is what really like a civic and urban life is all about. What is also really fun about it is, and we're looking forward that at some point your kid's going to run around and look at these pavilions and wonder what are these edges and so on, and then realize that actually this edge from the trailhead fits perfectly to the edge of the restaurant. So there's actually a lot of kind of secrets and clues and playful elements in here that are part of the design that is almost kind of a natural condition that has emerged out of just taking that square and distributing it into these 4 different architectural elements. Now from the kind of distribution through the site, you see that they all relate to each other. But they also have all the different purposes and functions, and I will explain you a little bit more in detail in a minute what's in one of each of them. But in terms of materiality, the other element that we were so fascinated with is really the Indiana limestone. You have the Empire Quarry, where actually the Empire State Building in New York, it's built out of the material from your state. So by seeing actually that beautiful material, we wanted to use it and use it in the rough edge to really have a local quality or a local material that becomes really the face and the identity of your pavilions. But it also connects it, of course, with the great ideas of architecture, with the Empire State, the Rockefeller, and many other buildings that actually use the material here from Indiana. And as an architect, it's really fascinating to work with natural material and use it as a facade system. And there are many different ways how this can happen. And we explored multiple of them. Here are a few of them. So for example, on the very top left, you see the visualization, the way how we actually expressed it doing schematic design. So some of the images you saw that actually showed that kind of angular, almost like plates of stone. And for us, the ambition is to actually create something that nobody has ever seen before. So we actually worked with our engineers and also with fabrication consultants to come up with a new facade idea that is entirely different, but also uses Indiana limestone. And the magic is actually in exactly this. This is from one of your quarries here. It's 6 inch by 6 inch. And maybe you have seen the video game Minecraft. Has everyone seen it? One of the inspirations. So you actually just take them and you put them on top of each other and you aggregate them. And you aggregate them in a multiple fashion so that there are actually thousands of it. And it actually turned out, which is a coincidence, that we are now using more than 33,000 of these pixels to build the facades of these pavilions, which kind of coincides with the number of inhabitants here in Westfield, which is of course also a very nice reference for it. So you can look and find your personal stone, and that's just your own stone. But what that really also does is now you see the kind of idea of the rough edge so that it really feels like a quarry, broken stone that is aggregated into this kind of playful facade. And now imagine these renderings are still not really adequate enough, but when light casts over it, the shadow, the water, the rain, the texture, the aging, all of that, it will be a lively facade that changes all the time. When we take pictures of it in the morning, in the afternoon, and at any kind of given time, it will absorb the kind of change of nature and environments and really reflect it onto the building itself. What we also have done now, you see on the other side, this is the kind of perfect kind of slick curtain wall facade that kind of follows the geometry of the square. And you see here already indicated that we have a variation of materiality. So here we have it a little bit frosted, then it becomes clear, and then it's frosted again, and on the very top it's actually solid. And with that it becomes more mysterious and more playful, so that when you walk around the pavilion, sometimes you see reflections, you see people, and sometimes you don't. So that it's not just like a glass pavilion that kind of shows everything at once. It is a little bit more mysterious, it's more engaging, and it also allows us to actually, at night, to use that facade for illumination. Because when you actually have light backlit frosted glass, it glows. So that these pavilions actually going to become almost like lantern that illuminate the plaza above and beyond the regular lights that are also, of course, built into the plaza design. Now all the other materials you see already, so the limestone with all of its kind of natural beauty, we're going to use concrete for the floor mostly. We have the exposed steel. There is actually a steel superstructure behind all of this. Now you can imagine 33,000 pieces of limestone are a little bit heavy. So we're using that actually also for the interior expression of it. We're using this translucent and opaque kind of white glass, wood to counter a little bit the softness in the inside. And then we have a ceiling material that is actually now a gridded system that all together becomes basically the material palette for all of the different pavilions. And in this kind of collaboration that we outlined here, We have LED as structural engineers, UAP who are helping us already with the fabrication as consultants, because that is something that is so unique that we really had to already explore today in design development, how it can be built in an efficient and realistic way. And then Ratio gonna take it over from us as a local architect so that we have also the local knowledge, of course, here in the process. And for this facade, just to give you a little bit of a glimpse, as David mentioned, we have a pack of construction documents that are much more detailed. But there are many layers which are actually really exciting. So from the kind of natural stone, the limestone, we have aluminum channels that hold the limestone in place. We have insulations and waterproofing, then metal panels that enclose the building, and then the steel superstructure, and then of course the interior space, then with the glass around it. And the details of the facade looks like something like this. So that you have now these kind of pixels that are physically connected to an aluminum channel that's connected towards an anchor and towards the superstructure. And then when we fabricate actually this facade, we're always going to create 4 by 4 foot panels that are already all of these pixels together that then going to be lifted into place and hung onto the building. So it's going to be fascinating also to see the construction of these pavilions, and we're going to really further explore how that all comes together. But we already now know that it's possible, and it will be something that's very different than a typical stone facade. Hopefully we inspire the next Empire State Building to maybe be built a little bit different. And here like an elevation where you see now the facade I described before, the glass facade that has also included in the arrows. You see it a little bit. Actually I have a little pointer here. You can see here actually these are big doors that 12 feet high that can be permanently open during the summer, allowing just like an open flow of people throughout the pavilion. And then ending here in the rough edge that really kind of defines, of course, the aesthetic of these pavilions. So now we're just going to walk you through a little bit more in terms of the program of the 4 different buildings. So the first one is a cafe that also is the space where you can rent the skates. We have here the glass facade on these 2 sides and the stone facade around it. And in the center you have this kind of solid core. That's where we have the bathrooms, we have access into the basement, and we have also the skating rental here in red. And then on the sides you have actually the storage for the rentals, and also access to the cafe and more cafe portions here, so that there's flexibility. There can be also private parties and events, special events, lectures and readings. Meanwhile, people can rent their skates and they can also consume some of the hot chocolate or the cookies or what's being offered here. And in the basement, we actually have a fountain storage and the equipment, and then also for the ice skating ring, all the kind of facilities. So the beauty is that everything is built in here, so there's no maintenance, nothing has to be bigly prepared. You can just turn on the skating rink, and it's very convenient and efficient, so that you always have your winter fun at any of the seasons. Now here, just these are very rough renderings or screenshots where you can see, again, the context here is the skating rink around it. You can circulate around the pavilion on all sides. Here the water fountain, where we changed a little bit the kind of construction technique for durability. Because when you have permanently water on a building, you have to detail it a little bit different. And then the access over the creek, and then also here the trails. And 2 additional visuals. So here again with our rough facade. On the other side, these are just screenshots where you now see here actually in the back a little bit the superstructure that you will be able to experience as an aesthetic from the inside. Because what we also want to do, that of course architecture is fascinating and it's beautiful to talk about it and to express it. So when the children are here and they see actually this cross bracing, they ask questions and we can explain them how the forces go through a building so that there's also a lot of educational quality within. And then here you see in the middle, these are where the seats are, and then here is the counter for the cafe, and this is where you can rent the skates. And from the inside, you see here now also the effect that we have from the facade with the frost kind of and the gradient going into the clear and back into the gradient. So it really kind of focuses the view into the horizon and really makes it quite different than if this would be just a glass pavilion in its own right. The next one is the Trailhead. Where we have now a very simple core with one bathroom and an information counter. And everything else is just open basically for exhibitions, informations, people to gather, the meeting point. And what we are so excited about with this pavilion, that almost like out of a coincidence, it's a form that is probably the most unique one. And I'll show you in the next slide. It's something that I think nobody can come up with. Except by taking something and breaking it into pieces, so that you see this amazing facade here, how it kind of curves from one curve into the other one. And because of the pixelation, it's so fluid and playful, so it becomes this really amazing kind of sculptural element that actually from here, where you arrive, it points into the park. So really the architecture says like, go in and have fun and enjoy the park. So it's really kind of an aesthetic indication of the direction where people should go to. And the frontal view, it's here all solid. It's almost like a rock that just stands in the grass. The third one is the restaurant. Where we now have here actually a full-fledged food preparation kitchen that we can use in the basement, a little bit storage, and then above we have the bathrooms, additional food preparations, and the seating area. And the main intent is that actually the restaurant has a little bit of interior space, but mostly really serves the outdoors, the exterior, with additional seating, and also what you saw already, the kind of bleacher seating that goes towards the water, where people can just enjoy their snacks. Here now is a view. It's on here on Union Street, opening up into the park, and with this very iconic kind of overhang that again also points towards the park. It's almost like an arrow. This is where you have to go. And then here from the creek, looking up, the kind of solidity with the kind of playful stone facade. And then the fourth one, that was the absolute trickiest. Not just because of melody gave us a lot of demands, but which is also the beauty, because we were actually able to work with theater consultants, lighting consultants, sound consultants, really on now perfecting the pavilion so that all the kind of different functions are here. But we reshaped actually the volume, and you see it here also in a model, so that actually now it has a curve that actually allows the sound to be reflected out into the open. Yeah, so the stones and everything going to actually help to amplify whatever happens here in terms of performance. So we reshaped the whole kind of geometry according to, and we also now added an additional roof to it so that we create water protection, sun protection for even like the big orchestra, so that 65 people can be covered in the outdoors just in front of the new pavilion. We have here the large scale, the stage, where we have a built-in movie screen that's inflatable. So you can just open a door and it inflates, and you can watch the movies here in the lawn. And then inside we have all the kind of technology built in that's needed now to operate all of these events, and also a green room for the artists so that they can take a little bit of a rest before they go out and onto stage. Here you see the orientation with the stage here in front, the great lawn, some loading and additional functions here, also with the bathrooms and the additional green room. And as an experiential image, this is, we call really the money shot, or how we now call it, the selfie shot. You're going to see it everywhere because that is the kind of iconic feature that really comes out of a function of being an efficient bench shell. But with this kind of, this is 16 feet up till here. We added another 4 feet to actually extend the roof all the way over the stage, so that it is really an amazing cantilever that helps to make this performance all happen on the side. You may have realized that now it's a little bit taller, so we have actually until here we have the limestone, and then we wanted to show that we actually extended this pavilion. So up here we have aluminum extrusions with an aluminum cap that helps us to save a little bit on weight, because now it becomes a really drastic cantilever. But it also helps so that you still realize that this is a portion that connects to all the other pavilions, and this is an added roof that we have here. And from the front, you see how it already kind of channels the energy of the performance out into the open, because that is really what it's all about. So that actually one performer, 2 performers, 10 or 60 feel comfortable here and don't get lost. And it really supports it through its kind of geometry above. And here you see one rendering that starts to capture really the reality of the materiality of these buildings. You see here with the limestone how now actually it has this kind of warmth and the reflection of the sun, the kind of crisp facade kind of continuing from here, and then also how these pavilions start to really talk to each other. So we feel that there's this kind of idea of a relevant design that is really rooted in the local quality through its materiality. And the building are progressive, but they're also poetic. So we believe that this is a design that really going to contribute now to the park to give its identity, but not overpower, because in the end it's all about you and your community to enjoy. Thank you.
Passing the torch to Christian, who's going to talk about identity and branding of the site.
Yes. So it's really exciting for us to be here and present this evolution to all of you. We've been working on this for more than a year now, and we're going to be showing you the brand design and the signage of the project. The park itself, it's a place where trails come together, but most important, it's about you all. It's about the community and how people actually come together into the space to create something new about it. It's about you engaging in this community, and you as well participating and celebrating all the activities and the events that are going to be happening in the space. This is the neighborhood at the moment. The shape and the new park that you have seen before. And we actually are informing ourselves in terms of the shape to create the symbol of the park. As David was saying and Matthias was saying in terms of architecture and as well in terms of landscape design, they talked about about each one of us. Every one of us has a little sparkle, as well as how the architecture is a cube that actually deconstructed to actually create something new. We're playing with organic shapes to create a symbol that is going to be flexible enough and it's going to allow to more iconography that you're going to see in the next slides to communicate the different events and different energy that is going to come into the space. In this case, there's 6 organic symbols that are coming together to create the symbol of the park, and each one of them is actually represented with independent colors that are reacting to the different environments that are within the park: water, different type of lawns, etc. The watermark, the typographic part of it, we're divided in 3 different elements. First of all, we're highlighting the idea of junction in a kind of visual poetic way. We're talking about the idea of junction using 2 hyphens and dividing the word junction, making it bolder, making it bigger, but talking specifically about this idea of trails and junctions coming together. Grand Plaza becomes a supportive element that you'll see how flexible it is in terms of a layout and how it reacts to the different kind of layers and visual communication that we're going to be implementing to communicate the space. we're allowing ourselves to have different iconography that I'm going to speak more towards this in the next few slides to communicate the events. Grand Junction is going to be something so iconographic for the city, so prominent in terms of its architecture and its landscape and what it means to the city, that we don't need to show the logo all the time. We want each one of the events to be the elements that actually are highlighted and the ones that are actually activated to communicate and to bring people together into the space. The logo itself, it becomes something that is flexible in terms of a scale. You're going to see how it reacts in different layouts. But it's also, in terms of watermark, it's flexible in terms of organization of its elements. In this case, we're showing the watermark. We're removing the symbol of the Grand Junction Plaza, and we're showing it together with an icon that is representing multicultural events. Again, I'm going to talk more in detail about the iconography later on, but this is showing you how the watermark itself works together with different kind of iconography, and it's actually going to be promoting the events of the park. Just because of the energy and the amount of activities that are going to be happening in the park, we're allowing ourselves and having the opportunity to create a really big range of colors to be implemented in the identity. Our primary color palette speaks directly to natural colors. Secondary palette goes between cold and warm colors, but as well uses up a range of neutral colors that allows to have a better balance in terms of each one of the communications. If I go back and forth here, we're also integrating the colors of the city, of the brand of the city. That way, whenever the new brand of the Grand Junction Plaza and the Westfield City brand are coming together, are communicated, and they're actually aligned in terms of visual communication. This is our icon system overview. If you notice, we're using the same type of organic elements to create each one of the icons. Each one of the icons are actually informing themselves with different type of colors that are reacting to the specific events, and they are also representing each one of the events. The 4 ones at the top here are representing, for example, Farmers Market, Cafe, Friends of the Junction, Runners Club, etc. Multicultural events, ice ring, music in the park, storytelling, scene in the park. This is more towards ice ring, so it works in conjunction with this one. Derby, and this is for Westfield and the lights. Each one, as I was saying, each one of the iconography actually works with its own color, but we're allowing Westfield and lights, just because we have so much light coming through, reflection, and actually creates more light as an event itself, more colors as an event itself. We're allowing this one to have to actually take borrow colors from the complete color palette, just to bring more kind of energy into that particular communication. Posters is a big piece in the communication, and how the park is going to speak to the community throughout the city. Same as how the rest of the concepts and ideas are coming together. We're speaking here to a merge of different elements to come together to communicate something. We're allowing the icons to be the primary element that is going to speak to that particular communication, and the title. So those are the two only elements that are actually bringing the color from that particular event into life. Junction becomes something secondary in that case, and this is because the junction itself and the brand as a whole is so unique in a way, it's so recognizable that, again, we don't need to show the logos all the time, and we don't need to like basically put so many information, so many logos in the same type of communication. We're allowing here to show the main title of the event, the iconography that is representing that event, information about dates and locations, but as well all the programs on the side for that particular event. And of course, allowing a space for sponsors and for the organization of the city to basically highlight that sponsorship and give thanks to those sponsors that are actually participating in this event. In case of that there's no sponsor, we also have the flexibility to just show the Westfield logo as part of this particular communication. This is just some screens of showing them in context of how they will look and how they will shine within the environment. And banners was another request for us to create. Banners is is something that is used within the streets. While you are going to be driving, you need to have a quick communication element so you can actually read quickly and understand quickly. So in this case, we remove all the programs that you see in the posters, and we are allowing the icons and the titles to be a little bit more bolder, bigger, and just show the primary information to communicate a particular event. Multicultural, derby, and farmers market in this case. This is just showing it in context with family movies in the park. Westville in lights. And as well, having the opportunity to display and give thanks to the sponsors that are actually participating in this event, giving them the space to showcase their logos as part of the same identity. We know the importance, even though like all of the brand is all about iconography and how the iconography is communicating this energy, we know that showing the community, participating in the events, showing the community and the activeness of the community and being engaged in the space is really important. So we came up with the idea of using duotone images for each one of the photographs that are going to be placed in the different communication pieces. Why is this? Just because we want to keep the same type of visual communication for each one of the events, we are allowing the images to basically take one color of the icon that is representing that event to be represented in that way. So in this case, an image becomes green that is being represented by the farmer's market, or it could be purple, it could be red, it could be blue, being represented a multicultural event. That way, when we see a whole package of communication pieces, you see the poster that becomes blue and purple. You see a triptych that is actually represented with the same type of tonalities, so it speaks the same vocabulary. So in this case, it's just showing how an image is actually taking place with the tones that are speaking to that particular event, but it's also being placed within the icon to represent that event. Just some other designs. This is the hoarding wall speaking. The hoarding wall is the wall that we place while this is being constructed, while the space is being constructed. So this is basically to communicate the energy that is going to be placed in the space through the icons and through the main brand in the center. Paper bags to promote and to give away, for example, in the farmer's market, or tote bags to promote the park itself. Coffee cups, window stickers to be placed in different businesses around the neighborhood, just so neighbors can actually be friends of the junction and actually to promote the idea of the park. And more corporate elements like, for example, pencils or pens. We also came up with the idea of making it a little more friendly, or even making more conversational. So when you go to the farmer's market, people are going to be there, for example, with a t-shirt, I farm, you eat, and just become this kind of engaging relationship. Or if you're all about running, Born to Run. In terms of signage, the brand itself is all about the iconography. It's all about the colors and how this energy is actually communicated through the icons. For the wayfinding, we wanted to take a step back and make it a little more neutral. We wanted to remove the colors, but still keep the same language of the icons that we were actually creating. Keeping the same shapes, these organic shapes, but basically create independent icons to talk about the pavilions or the different areas or the different information that needs to be placed in the wayfinding. How this one lives in the space, we're basically working with curtain steel. We're using a natural material to basically work in conjunction with the environment. We don't want to be intrusive with the environment. We want to have something that works together with the environment, and we want the park itself and the pavilions itself to be the things that shine. Wayfinding needs to be functional. It doesn't need to scream to you, but needs to be functional in that sense. In this case, the main entry ID is showing basically the logo of the park. but it also, we're removing the colors of the symbol and allowing the people basically to look through the main entrance, to the main ID. Why is this? Basically because that way you're gonna be able to see the environment change. You're gonna see the leaves turning green, the leaves turning red in fall, or seeing snow. So the same way as how the main identity represents each one of the colors to talk about the environment, in this way the logo itself becomes alive in a way. For facility IDs, in the same way, we want to work in collaboration with architecture and we work in collaboration with the landscape design. In this case, we're using one plane of corten steel that is actually wrapping and reacting to that environment. We're not creating volumetric signage. We're basically creating elements that are reacting to the environment and they're actually communicating and representing that particular area of the space. This is Wetland Amphitheater, Jersey Plaza. Each one of them has a particular iconography that is actually representing that area. Meadow lawn, or the stage pavilion with its own iconography. For wayfinding itself, using the same concept and the same idea, making it simple, allowing these independent sheets of steel to stack, to speak in a way also to how the architecture is built of things that are stacking together, or as well of how the iconography itself are being built of elements that are actually coming together to create something new. In this case, the main chevron on each one of the pieces is actually knocked out as well, so you're going to be able to see the environment, and the rest of the information is being placed on top of the steel. And they're being tilted slightly just to reinforce that particular direction of where you need to go within the environment. This is a quick render just to show you kind of the scale of that particular wayfinding piece. Park directory has the same type of principle in terms of material. This is a little bit more bigger just because we need to display much more information. But again, we're not screaming in terms of color or graphic elements. We're using the information black and white and making the piece itself with the corten to be the primary physical element that is reacting to the environment. The map itself, I'm not sure you can see it here clearly, is being designed with the same type of iconography that is being represented for each one of the areas. So it's an easy way to actually make the connection to what you see in the map and what you see with the icon, for example, for the lawn or for the amphitheater. And for the ecology and history signs, in this case, we're allowing to have a little more color just because here we need to have that relationship between what you're seeing in the information, but also what you're seeing in the environment. Parking IDs for bikes. Here the bike iconography and the iconography becomes big and bold. We're really happy with this one just because it's really cute in general. It's really friendly. And we also like the idea of how light is going to go through it and how this is going to change in terms of the environment and how that icon is actually going to float in the floor. And to the pavilion itself, same principle. We don't want to be intrusive in terms of making a big volumetric sign on front of it. The pavilions are so beautiful and they're so iconic itself, each one of them, that we want to be a complement to that particular architecture. And we want to have an iconography that is representing each one of them with the title. Restaurant pavilion, the previous one, cafe pavilion, which we're also allowing within winter, is closed with its doors, and during the summer, the doors open, and having that flexibility to the icon to break. Why not? The system in general is really flexible, it's really friendly, and it's flexible in terms of how things are going to be happening in the park. This reacts the same way. Trailhead pavilion, the stage pavilion. And this, in general, is our all system overview. Here we have some additional things in terms of wayfinding, showing you the three kind of layers of wayfinding, or bulletin boards, or how, for example, the signs for washrooms are actually being implemented with the same type of iconography as well. That's it. Thank you.
we have just one last thing to show you. It's a flyby. You're going to want to stay.
They're both there.
Yep, thanks.
You want the mics?
No, so just to close out tonight's presentation, I wanted to, we developed a quick sketch flyby just to give you a sense of what the spaces are like. Let's see if we can make this go. So just to give you a sense, moving through, that's the Meadow lawn. We're going to cross the creek. The Wetland amphitheater is just below us. And we're going to go above the restaurant pavilion and cross the creek again to Jersey Plaza. You can see the Cascade Fountain coming off of the cafe. And the focus on the main stage of the Great Lawn. And then the second one, just from a greater altitude, just to give you a sense of the space. We're following along Mill Street. You can see the stage pavilion and the creek, the Trailhead pavilion on the lower right, and the restaurant pavilion running along Union towards Jersey, and then wrapping around again towards Jersey Plaza. That is Grand Junction Plaza. I welcome any questions that you might have. Or none if you're stunned. Yes?
From start to finish, how long is this
So,
going to be finished?
okay, so we've been at it for 2 years now. That's what I asked one of my colleagues, what was our project number? Because that's always starts with the year number, and it was 14. So we started it was our second project in 2014. And we have construction documentation to go through, which will take another 4 months, I believe, something in there. And then we put it out to bid. The construction time is based on the funding of the park. And the first effort, obviously, will be Mill Street, which is required. That's the thing that piece of infrastructure makes the park possible. And then the next phase would be the repair of the creek, which allows then the space on either side to be accessible. And so it's a phased project coming forward. Yes?
I want to go hear the orchestra. Where do you park?
By the time this is built, we hope that there will be significant parking available in downtown.
But not in the park.
Not in the park. There was a question in the back, but oh, okay, very good. Or they could ride their bikes was the comment from the back, yes. Yes?
I just have a question. I did go to the earlier viewing that you had where there were like 4 or 5 different things to look at. Everything was very ultra-modern, and this is what I see. Were you guided as to wanting an ultra-modern look? One of the things, and it's beautiful. I mean, I have no argument with that. One of the things that when I hear people talk, why they moved to Westfield, it's for a hometown feel. And the restaurants that have developed alone are in houses, you know, they're not like city. It's not like city.
Uh-huh.
And to me, this is very city. And I'm just wondering, my question was, and I think you answered it, was were you guided as to a hometown feel or an ultra-modern feel, or what were you going for?
I was guided by the concept of the unification of people. It was not a historicist approach. It's not a futurist approach. It's a living approach about what design of today, reflective of yesterday, but looking forward to tomorrow. It is not about historicists, because we're not historicist designers. And I don't think people should think of it that way. People carry history with them here and here. But when you say this looks like city, I have to say I think modern art belongs anywhere and everywhere. It doesn't need to sit in the modernist context, and it doesn't need to sit in a historicist context. It is us as individuals that bring to the receipt of something beautiful what we want. And I think about Park Street as it comes down to Mill, sorry. And the way in which that is a beautiful contrast as it's being developed. You know, the Red Barn, sorry. The rail, sorry, I couldn't get it. The Red Barn, the rail, and Greek's Pizza. I mean, I think that's the great way. That's going to be an incredible street leading to this park. I personally don't see that as new construction. I would love to see that be the existing structures modified to become and lead into something extraordinary that's different, not historicist, not of any other place but Westfield because it's uniquely of here.
I don't think the story, history is the issue. It's just contract, and you see that as beautiful. And I think many people, as do myself, see it as don't fitting in, you know. But I would love for other people, because I think what happens in groups like this is people kind of shut down and they don't really express or ask the questions they don't ask. And I just encourage people to, you know, please ask questions now before it's too late. And if this is it, you know, I can live with this. But it's like, and I know this is not your decision. You guys are the ultimate architects. But, you know, I hope that everyone takes out.
And we welcome it. It's not, but again, I think it is personal taste at some level, right? But the beautiful thing about community is it's incredibly varied in the assessment of like.
I'm not saying I don't like modern art because I actually do, but I just don't know, you know, I'm just interested in what others think.
Uh-huh. As are we. Yes?
Amazing design, everything I've seen. I'm curious, like, lighting throughout the park, what does that look like? Is that kind of like future phases and stuff? How lit is the park going to be at night and that kind of environment?
Lighting plays an essential role in it, and I regret Linnea Tillett of Tillett Lighting Design couldn't be here this evening. I didn't want to misrepresent her work in any way. It is beautiful. It is designed to be beautifully lit, I have to say, and characteristically different depending upon where you are in the park. There will be a significantly different feel on the plaza than there would be in any of the Woodland Walk or Riparian Corridor walks. We have aspirations that the illumination of the pavilions will actually be in some ways reactive to each other, so that certain times the facades might actually talk to each other through light. That energy, that spark. We have worked very hard to get performance lighting for the stage very specifically so that we can have a myriad of presentations from orchestras to plays to other events take place on there. It is not, obviously the minimum issue is safety, but the maximum quality is variety. And it really focuses in the design on the line of the Riparian Corridor and the transition of quality of light from the plaza stepping down to the corridor itself. Sorry, yes?
The north end on the Jersey Plaza, what's the elevation of that compared to the current elevation of Jersey Street?
So if you will use your imagination for just a moment, if you take the intersection of Union and Mill in its present state and take a taut piece of string and extend it to Jersey and Union and draw a straight line, it's roughly that. What we had, it's slightly elevated towards Union. What we had to do to make the plaza work functionally, specifically for the ice skating rink, that can't be more than 1 to 1.5%. So we're keeping this wonderful taut plane, and then it slightly goes up. But we're lifting up Jersey. We're lifting up Jersey because that's part of the solution for the stormwater abatement. Pulling this space up out of the floodplain.
And then what happens north of Jersey?
When development occurs north of Jersey, that will be filled and then finally meet up with Union, or Maine. Yes, sir.
So, all through the presentation and discussion, it's all very new and it does have modern feel, but obviously natural. But all I kept hearing is that these are very unique structures. There's a lot of fabrication involved. I mean, all very good materials. I heard that, understand that. But obviously, when you're anytime you're moving away from something that's not a normal, standardized building, you know, square things like that, costs go up. So obviously, there's going to be additional costs to build it because of the fabrication. But I would be more concerned with the maintenance and the longevity of those buildings and their ability to be maintained, because it sounds like there might be more special things to be able to take care of those things, more like a museum where they have a particular staff that are trained to do that. You know, we're more of a smaller municipality, so you know, if I was sitting back looking at it, I wouldn't want to be just considering the cost to create it. I want to be able to say, how are we going to make sure that this lasts for a long period of time and is maintained in a way that it's always going to be enjoyable?
You may not have been at the beginning of the presentation when we talked about the different participants in the collaboration. There is a company called ETM Associates, and that's their sole purpose. They look at maintenance issues and programming and income generation and life cycle costs to ensure that what we design will be affordable by the city in the future.
Will it require? So will it require unique companies to do that? They'll do the analysis of that, but will it require like a unique talent?
No, they're qualifying it based on city standards.
Okay.
And the materiality, if you're concerned, again, the materiality of the structures, it's all very base, fundamental materials. They're
One of the materials I was in,
yeah.
it was just how they were put together, shapes. It's you know, even the most basic materials sometimes in the way that they're put together can be difficult to maintain.
Indeed.
So.
Yep. Yes.
On the north side of Jersey, where the creek runs through now, that creek is going to be closed off and will be rerouted?
Not necessarily. In our drawings, as we've tried to talk with the city, we would like it to remain exposed and be stabilized in the same way that so that tributary is coming down from the north. Cool Creek is coming up from the south. What we described as the confluence is the point where the two come together. Our aspiration is that it be exposed, because that's always healthier than having it be culverted. Presently, it's partially culverted and partially open. So as development opportunities are described for the properties north of Jersey, that will be part of the dialogue, what approach to take.
Because those buildings are low.
Right.
So you're going to raise Jersey.
Right.
Which will make those buildings even more low.
No. Well, the idea is that the development will be elevated as well. So actually, the creek will be lower. And the issue is, how do we keep the creek exposed, but again, pull it apart to step down to it without devaluing the property? Yes?
Yeah, and this completely ties in. Is there an intelligent way to save the historic firehouse that is exactly at the corner of Jersey and Union?
It's not part of our project, so I can't say. We stop at the north of Jersey.
In order for you to do what you're saying is going to happen, you will have to destroy that firehouse.
Not necessarily. There are ways of saving buildings, moving buildings, any number of things that can be done to buildings, but that is not part of our project, so it's difficult for me to talk about that. Yes?
It's a question that comes to mind about safety in a couple of these areas. A couple of those buildings look like they would make great climbing walls. and I see a walkway running through the middle of a waterway that's wide open, has no railings. Has there been thought given to that issue and how you might address that without destroying the aesthetics of some of those things?
So there are two questions there because there are two different things that are happening. In terms of the boardwalk doesn't require a railing because it's not so high above the ground that it meets a code where you have to have a railing. But there will be a wheelchair rail at the base so that if somebody is confined to a chair, they're not going to roll off. But in its current elevation state, it's actually fairly close to the ground. It doesn't need to be have a railing. That's at 27 inches. And you have a 42-inch thing, so we don't need that. In terms of the facade of the buildings, we continue to grapple with how to think about non-climbable and what that means. And we're going through a lot of debate within the team about that.
Let's take one more question. It's getting late. And for the additional questions, Aaron, we have cards in the back. So you can contact the city via email. You can contact your city councilor with the Grand Junction task group, and be more than happy to field those questions and respond accordingly. So one more burning question. Yes, sir.
As an architect, congratulations on the design. It's a very well thought out, outstanding design. I think everybody will be very pleased with it. A functionality question for you. I don't know if you spend any time on our trails, our going on trail or our trail. But I think the Trailhead pavilion is very understated. We need restrooms, we need drinking fountains, places to get in the shade, they're gathering places. And along Union, when Midland Trail crosses, that's a natural place.
It is.
So those who use the trails know exactly where the parking is, they know where the restrooms are, we know where the drinking fountains are. This is a natural place, and it's very understated.
Yeah.
And I think it could be much, much more. It should be much, much more.
It is the smallest of all of the pavilions, that's true, but it is actually the most open and the most, it actually, because of the floor plan of it, it has the most space for multiple ways of engaging folks that will be a part of it. It also does include the information booth and bathrooms, and it's just one bathroom set of those that are in the support pavilion for the stage, and the cafe has multiple bathrooms in it. So there are actually restrooms throughout. I recognize that you're saying that that's the confluence, and we will continue to address those issues.
Those restaurants would not like runners and bikers and others to be in there. I mean, I think the council and the Westfield folks can kind of understand that. Need to think that one through, because it's a great opportunity at that location. And maybe it's not there, but then where is it along?
Sure.
Cool.
Well, David, thank you, your team.
Absolutely.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.